it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Your suggestion that we go to our moment of silence. We also had Paul O'Connor, who passed away.
Yes.
Who was a great advocate for human service here in the Cape.
So I would ask everyone to take a moment of silence to remember our troops, both at home and abroad, for the victims of the earthquake in Haiti, and for Paul O'Connor, who...
Paul O'Connor was from Orleans, and over the years had been a strong advocate for human service and human need here in the Cape, and he passed away, last weekend.
Okay. Thank you. So welcome to the January 27th meeting of the Board of Regional Commissioners for Cape Cod. And our first agenda item is public comment. Beth, yes, please.
Briefly. I think we are giving out, we're pleased to actually present two publications this morning to the commissioners. One is Monitoring the Human Condition from 2009, and then also we have an executive summary of Monitoring the Human Condition, the study, executive summary of the 5 years of monitoring the human condition. And that actually is going to be, we invited the press to come tomorrow to the advisory council meeting, the Health and Human Service Advisory Council meeting at the Transportation Center in Hyannis.
And that's at
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
Actually, I'll give you that. I have 3 copies of everything. Pass it down.
Thank you.
Okay. So,
Yeah, you keep that. I'll get it.
Okay.
and then these are the actual studies. I'll leave it right here for
Okay.
you.
He
But I
has-
just wanted to point out a couple things, other than obviously letting you know that we are going to be having this tomorrow, and we would love to have all 3 of you come if possible. Just a couple things to point out. I mean, you're familiar with monitoring the human condition. Over the last 5 years, some of the things that we've pulled out, obviously, the findings highlight some of the demographic shifts in our population, so you'll see that reflected in the executive summary. Also, the increasing need for basic human services, and that's something that we pulled out and highlighted in the executive summary, as well as increasing serious need among our most needy households. And you'll also see that in the study. I do want to thank the county commissioners and the county for supporting the department in doing this research over the past, actually it started in 1995, but monitoring the human condition as we currently know it has been funded for the last 5 years. From what I understand and from everything we know, it is probably one of the most in-depth, comprehensive studies of human need in the country. And so I just wanted to let you know that and to thank you for supporting that over the last 5 years and previously. So tomorrow is the where we're going to actually be releasing the 2 publications, and we invite you to come.
I want to point out that there's been some interest in this publication. I got a call from Steve Jocham over at DMH wanting to know when he could get a hold of it.
Okay.
So there's that. I also would like to mention that we did have Kathleen and Ronnie, on the county chatter program to talk about 211. And at the Workforce Investment Board yesterday, I mentioned that was available to the members of the business community that are there. I think that this is another example of a lot of the good work that our human service department is doing, and I thank you very much for it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Beth, what is the extent of the release of the report? I mean, obviously it's on the website.
Yes, it's up on the website. Warren knows the numbers as far
We're
as...
mailing, starting today, 64 packages like this to all of the state, federal, and county heads, boards of selectmen, administrators and agency heads, like Steve Jokum, for instance, all the D agency heads.
Beth, why don't you give out the website?
The website is www.bchumanservices.net. bchumanservices.net. So we actually published about 250 executive summary and about 150 hard copies of the big 2009 Monitoring the Human Condition. But we also have it available on disc as well as on our website.
I just have a question.
Sure.
Beth, what do you see as the kind of future of the human condition study? Do you see this continuing over the next few years? Or?
Well, we've been talking about that, and there's value in doing this needs assessment, possibly not on an annual basis, which is what it's been done, possibly every 2 years. The census data from 2010 is going to be coming out, so that it would make sense to do something immediately after the 2010, and then have a kind of a plan to do a type of monitoring the human condition in some form periodically over the next, decade, I guess. But I don't think we would be doing it. It's definitely not going to look the same. The monitoring the human condition as we know it is that 5 years of research, which has been pretty consistent, and the methodology has been the same for the past 5 years. We're going to be evaluating that, seeing what we think is, important to continue looking at, and then plan for continued needs assessment, although in a different way.
In the 2011 budget, which we're working on, is there money in there to do the 2010 piece?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Thank you
Excellent.
very much.
Thank you
All right.
very much.
Thank you for the time to do that.
We don't begin with Maggie until.
Not yet, no.
Not
So we
yet.
could do a couple of things if
So
you
why
want.
don't we, right?
If you wish to do the needs action piece, that would be good.
Question on, what exactly is Patty Daly's signatory authority mean?
Give me a number.
Number 9.
Number 9. It must be, Paul is on vacation or leave.
Oh. Okay, and then I presume that the transfer fund for the Cape Light Compact money that's already in the, that has been designated as part of the energy management funds.
Give me a number.
Number 11 and number 12.
Oh, to transfer funds. Yeah, that's probably the transfer funds. As you know, a department manager can transfer funds without your authority, with only his signature, within a group. That is within group 2, within group 3, within
Yes.
group 4, within group 5. In order to transfer between groups 2, 3, 4, or 5, you need to approve that.
Right,
That's what they're
and I
doing.
believe that 13 and 14 both follow on of all of that. So I'm good and I'm ready to move approval.
Okay. So you're still moving it?
Yes, I'm moving.
All right. I'll second, and those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, none. Motion carries.
Very good.
Do we want to make some of our reports now? Or-
We can,
Yeah,
yes.
because we got a
That's,
few minutes.
that's next in the list, yeah.
See, I went to, I made some notes about that, so it helped me remember. I went to the assembly meeting last week, and they expressed concerns about budget issues. And Ron Bergstrom made a specific request that if we had finished items, in other words, items that we didn't anticipate further review, or as we got to, let's say, past our second review, if we could they would like them delivered so that they could restart their review, could commence. I'm just passing this on, and I think we should perhaps think about it. And I did, although I hadn't seen Andrew Gottlieb's letter prior to going to the assembly meeting, there was some pushback because they had the letter on the exact meeting of the executive committee mentioned in that letter. So I think we need to discuss that.
I thought we could talk about that when we finish the agenda.
Okay, that'd be good. Now, on the DCPC,
Because Andy did call me this morning.
is he coming?
Yes, he was coming at 11.
Excuse me.
On the DCPC, that I acted as the applicant and introduced it. I suggested that, that Sheila would be the one that would carry on the technical part and follow for us during the hearings. They have announced several hearings that will be across the Cape to give the public an opportunity to participate. And when I was interviewed by Matt Pitter, I said that it's very important that the people understand that they've been invited to participate, and if they come, their voice will be heard. Otherwise, silence is consent. So I just thought that, I don't know if that message actually got across, but I think it's important that that people do participate. We had great luck with SEDS, for example, on community participation, and this is very important as well. We all went to the MMA.
Yes.
And I think the thing I came away with is that the governor's budget was very optimistic, I thought, and I don't know whether or not...
For local aid.
For local aid, and I don't know whether or not that would really, we should all start saying that we're gonna wait, or shouldn't wait until
Well, can I add
House.
something?
Yeah.
Actually, Bill, I went to a session where Leanne Pasquini, who's the state budget director, was there, and she did say that although that the governor was comfortable about the local aid in Chapter 70, he does have some plans on the pension reform piece and funding schedule. They still are in the process of closing a I believe it was $2.5 billion budget gap for 2011. And the reason that is because they used a substantial amount of one-time revenues to balance the 2010 budget that is in the form of, I believe, about $1 billion of ARRA money, and they took $1.5 billion, I believe the number was, out of the rainy day fund. So the rainy day fund now is at about $800 million, I think she said. So certainly they don't have that kind of money in there. I think they try to leave it, around that level. So they still have some budget challenges, substantial budget challenges ahead of them. So.
Well,
On the radio this morning, they were talking, because the governor's releasing his budget today, I
Right.
believe.
Mm-hmm.
And the local aid, local aid at F10 funding is still there. He's not going to reduce it from this year's level. And it also mentioned that he and the Senate President and the Speaker were going to be actually going into well, they didn't call it reconciliation, resolution, or at least working together on the budget, so that hopefully there will be more collaboration in the beginning than having to wait till the end when everyone's at loggerheads over the budget. So I thought that was
that's wonderful.
that was
If
pretty
they do
positive.
that,
If
that's
they
very
do that,
positive,
yeah.
And indeed, Senate President has invited us to go to a presentation of the budget.
Next February 12th, February 11th.
February 12th at 1 o'clock.
Here on the Cape.
Yeah.
It's at the Dick Bigos Community Room at the CAC.
CACI.
I think at that point we might get some update on that.
I would think so, yeah.
I was going to mention that because if you wish to go, there is an RSVP
Oh, there
by
is?
invitation. Just let me know and I'll let Karen know
Yes,
that you're planning. to attend.
definitely.
I've sent that back to you. The Cape Cod Regional Transportation Authority is having hearings on the improvements to the B-bus. They met in Eastham on Monday. They met in Mashpee yesterday, and they have a final hearing at the Transportation Center here in Hyannis this afternoon. I mentioned Paul O'Connor's passing. And, Cape Cod Focus. Cape Cod Focus is a group of community leaders who do not represent a single segment. The Business Roundtable, of course, represents the business community. The Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce represents their membership. Peter Meyer, who's the publisher of the Cape Cod Times, was the original, organizer of it. And Steve Abbott along with Gary, the guy that's the head of the Young Professionals in Cape Cod. Gary Sheehan, have been co-chairs, and one of the things that came out of the meeting.
Majority over here.
We're lucky to have them. One of the things that they suggested that they could do, because they are an independent voice, is to be create a scorecard. And I would like to suggest that we invite them to be an ex officio, and thus maintain their independent status, to be an ex officio citizens advisory group for us, because they do represent a
The
whole,
officials.
all of the groups that, that we're concerned with.
Mhm.
And when we do the introspection of, of where we are, we tend to talk to silos of people, and this would be a great opportunity to, to encourage them. So what I'd like to suggest is, that we send them some type of a letter that we invite, that we invite them to be that ex officio group to create a scorecard and to be, to follow what they said their stated interest was, to be a convener, catalyst, and advocate for things that are important to to all of Barnstable County. And I think the important piece is that we don't try to co-opt them as much as we encourage them, and I think the ex officio status would be one that would do that, and I'd like to encourage us, to move on that.
Well, why don't you bring that up next week when the three of us are here, so that we can
Right.
discuss it then?
Yeah, because I think that, their interest is not in doing things, let's say, or creating a task force as much as being responsive to what they see in terms of what's going on in the community, and give us some feedback so we can move some of our programs forward. They're concerned about the progress with regard to wastewater, the development of regional services, to see some of the actual progress that we're making in those things. And many times when we talk to the community, we're not really hearing what I call a broad spectrum. So why don't, if you could put that on the agenda.
Yes, maybe we ask them to come in
Yeah.
in the future as well, too,
Yeah.
once we get the budget
Have
a
a
little bit.
have a
behind us.
discussion with them, and then take it up then.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea, because I know they're very active in the communities.
Yes.
They're active in my town,
Oh,
and so that would be good.
good. Okay, so could you perhaps send a note along to them asking if they could send a representative or come in and see us?
Sure.
Yeah, we'll
after
put it
budget?
on the agenda
Yeah.
at some point.
Okay, well, that's what I'm up to.
Well, I wanted to talk about a very interesting meeting that we had at the MMA, and it was called Attitudes About Government. How to change attitudes about government. Everyone
Pass this
seems,
over to his,
yeah. Everyone seems to think, well, there are a lot of people who think that the government is in the way, and that taxes are too high, and that we spend way too much money on pork and all of these sorts of things. And there was a gentleman, this was at the Mass Selectmen's Association annual meeting, and he made a presentation on how you do that, and he's been working on this. His company it's called DEMOS, DEMOS, it's the name of his company, and they have decided to take this on as a project. So they've been working on it for a few years now, and they've done surveys all around the country, and they ask people on the street things like, so what do you think about government? And you should have seen some of the videos that he had of people sighing, government, oh no, you're going to ask me about, oh no, and they waste my money, they don't do anything, there's too many, and all this sort of thing. But then when you come back and you ask people about public structure, what does public structure mean to you? And then they talk about, well, the parks and roads and snow removal and public buildings and all the various public structure, highways, interstates, and how would you, and then they say, well, no, we couldn't live without these are really important. So government does these, and under public structures come public organizations such as Medicare, Social Security, things of that nature. And then the conversation changes completely. So some people who were there, who had heard him before and make his presentation before, found that for public officials, there's a way of speaking about government that can actually influence how people feel towards government if you use the right words when you speak. So his brother happens to be an attorney who lives here in West Barnstable. His name is Patrick Brissett, and his brother's name is Matthew. And there were some people there, you may know him. And so he's familiar with the Cape. In fact, he was here, I guess, last weekend. But I talked to him afterwards about this, particularly in the area of wastewater, because there's so much angst and so much real concern about how much is this going to cost me? Am I going to lose my home? Because they don't understand it. And to get the message out there, and government's role in helping to make this happen, helping to clean up the estuaries and the ponds and the embayments and all of that, and it comes back to a quality of life. So how can we communicate to the citizens of Cape Cod that nitrogen loading is really an issue, wastewater is an issue, we're going to address it, how do we do it? And I thought he might be able to help us put together the kind of citizen language and support and all of that we would need to be able to get this message out there and have people feel that they actually are part of the decision-making process. And otherwise, if people don't feel they have a say, then they tend to look at government as this ogre that just makes decisions for them, raises their taxes and things of that nature. So anyway, he's very interested. So he gave me his card, and I think we can explore with him ways in which we might be able to utilize some of these concepts. But he would come and make the presentation that he made to the MSA, which I think would be really helpful. I thought that was a real highlight of the MMA meeting, is how do you change people's and it's all in how you speak and how you approach it. You know, if you say, what do you think of government, you get a totally negative response. But if you talk about, what do you think about your community? And then he talks about how if the Public Works Department, if they really maintain the roads and they keep them clean, and you have parks where people can go, and the infrastructure, the public infrastructure in your community is what you like about your town, then it adds to your quality of life and you feel good about that. Well, how does it get there? It's because government made it happen. Could you make it happen? Well, no, someone says, I couldn't make that happen. But that's why I need the government to do that. Well, so I'm not going to belabor the
It's
point.
such a basic thing, Psychology 101 says
Yes,
if
it
you don't
is.
feel as you're in control of your environment,
Right.
you either will flee or you'll fight. And unfortunately, we have more people that are fighting than are fleeing this.
Yeah.
And I think that's very, very important.
Well,
I think that would be a great idea. It reminds me of one other thing that we heard at the MMA, which actually bears on what we're going to hear later. Richard Florida, who is a great
Richard Florida, yeah.
who is a great advocate for understanding the contribution that the arts make to economic development, was the keynote speaker
Yes.
at our MMA conference.
Right.
And although I had heard him before, he was nevertheless someone that I think that most of the people that were in that room went away with a better understanding of how the quality of your life and your economic security has to do with understanding how all of the parts that we see contribute to it. So I
See,
think
we're giving you a segue here, Maggie.
when
Yeah.
can we see this guy, by the way? When do you think we could arrange
Well,
him to come in? Because I'd like to, perhaps we should invite a bigger audience like the Assembly and.
Well, we'll have to
the
have
Selectmen's
a
Association, things like that,
discussion
yeah.
about how we need to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, remember, he doesn't come for free.
Right.
So we have to really think about what do we actually want from him? What does he have to offer? And talk with the commission, with Paul and the staff, and really see how we want to do this.
Well, I know in the Battle of Hearts and Minds, it's very important that, that when we think of the agencies and all of the contact we have, we need to make sure that the Cape Cod Commission is fulfilling this mission of getting out there. We have the Health and Environment section has direct contact. We have the Co-op Extension. We have all of those agencies, plus the Assembly of Delegates.
The other thing, too, is there were a lot of Cape Selectmen there, and they all attended the MSA meeting. So, I mean, there were people there from Provincetown and Brewster and all over. And so, I just didn't hear this myself. There were a lot of Cape Selectmen there. So that was very good.
That sounds great. And
Other than that,
I'd like
I'm
the
immersed in
audience to be
wastewater.
the audience to be,
It's not good.
that would be engaged
It's
would
such a
be
huge
everybody.
issue everywhere. You can't, it takes up a huge amount. You have to focus on it a whole lot on the Cape. From everybody. Everyone wants to talk about wastewater.
I've been cornered 3 times in the last week by somebody who had a particular slant on how we were or were not solving those wastewater problems.
Right.
So it is topic A with a lot of people.
All right, well, we may be a little early, but we can resume our other
Yeah, it's
items
probably
later.
preferable, yeah.
And we can start with Maggie Van Skyver. And you can introduce yourself and your organization you represent and who's here with you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm Maggie Van Skyver. I'm the board president of the Arts Foundation of Cape Cod. It's a volunteer position. And I'm here with Tyler Peeves, who is a part-time employee of the Arts Foundation. And when he's not with us, he is a glass-blowing apprentice and an emerging artist that I think we'll be hearing much about.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We are delighted to come back and appreciate the invitation to do so. The Arts Foundation of Cape Cod is, of course, honored to be the officially designated regional local arts agency of Barnstable County. And there are funds that are provided to us for our programs and for our services, and they've had a significant and measurable positive impact on the local economy and on the arts industry. So what I thought I would do is use about 3/4 of my time and let you know about the return on your investment. What did we accomplish in the last year? And then I thought I would follow that with letting you know what still needs to be done, those things we weren't able to do because of our cuts in funding. Then I have a request for funding for the 2010-2011 year, and then leave time for questions. May I proceed?
Sure, absolutely.
So as I said, we're the designated regional arts agency. We have a weekly impact. In every one of our 15 towns, we have a robust program of work, which we proudly present on a shoestring budget. This is a full calendar of programs for residents and for visitors. The programs are professionally presented, they are unique, they are in demand, and they benefit thousands of Barnstable County residents. We are a direct employer. We provide essential technical training to help artists make art and make a living. And we garner, and this is very important, both national, super-regional, and regional media response. We get covered. We make news. And that provides invaluable exposure to Cape Cod businesses and draws residents and visitors to the Cape in support of the area's entire economy. So this is why they say arts are an economic engine. It's effectively cultural tourism. So we do quite a bit more than improve the quality of life for all who live, work, and visit here, although the first thing that we all think of is the joy that the arts bring us. I've taken our program of work, I've divided into 7 sections, and I'll go through those fairly quickly, knowing that there'll be questions at the end. The first I'd like to talk about is our arts education programming, because that's occurring right now in a very big way. We mounted a free and open to the public regional visual arts exhibition. It's called First Things First. Tyler's going to hand all poster to keep. And it showcases 55 of Barnstable County's finest artists. These artists live, work, teach, exhibit, and pay taxes on Cape Cod. They are with galleries that are businesses on Cape Cod. And it's a free, family-friendly exhibit. It will serve more than 1,000 visiting school children from all of Cape Cod that come in docent with their schools, and another 1,000 students that will come on their own, and another 1,000 adults, for a total audience of about 3,000. It's an exhibit that includes docent-led tours and hands-on curriculum-based art activities. And it's pretty fabulous. And I've got also postcards and program books for you. And you'll note with the program books that we list the galleries for each of the 55 artists, because it's our hope that people not only come as they are, hundreds per day, to see this fabulous exhibit, but they then want to see more, and they have the contact information for these arts-based businesses throughout the Cape. The next thing I'm going to have Tyler hand out to you, which just thrills us, is some of the press that we've received for this exhibit. And the item that's on top I want to call your attention to, it's from the Philadelphia Inquirer. The Philadelphia Inquirer enjoys about 5.4 million unique visitors per month on their website. And when they had the opportunity to write an article on 10 things you should do, only one of which was in Massachusetts, if you go on the road, they pick 10 things in 10 states. They picked this first things first art exhibit. So what they said to their audience of 5.4 million, a national audience, was go on the road, go to Cape Cod, see the art. Underneath this article from Philadelphia Inquirer, because this is not something that occurred in isolation, is a recommendation from AAA Horizon Southern New England. These folks enjoy 1.75 million readers, and they highlighted us. And then behind that, you'll see really dozens of pieces of press. We have state press from Visit New England, the online tourism guide that is put out, and from Newport Metro, and from the Massachusetts Cultural Council, all highlighting this exhibit. And then behind that, commissioners, you'll see the very gracious coverage that was provided by the Cape's own media, front page articles in Gatehouse Media and Cape Cod Media Group, the Enterprise and the Barnstable papers, among others. And this was supplemented by radio and other coverage. And this is very important because this really brings people to the Cape and lets Cape Codders become acquainted with the programming that's available, both from an educational standpoint at no cost for these 2,000 students that are served, but also to support the arts-based businesses thereafter. So that's a pretty exciting program, and I think many of you joined us for our opening reception, which had about 250 guests, including Senate President Theresa Murray and much of our legislative delegation. The next program I want to mention to you within this arts education umbrella is our Comcast Student Art Scholarship Program. This drew nearly 350 entries in the most recent year. It involved every school district on the Cape, public, private, parochial, technical, homeschooled students. They all submitted artwork for consideration to a community panel. Each student that submitted work was able to receive a free ticket to come hear the Boston Pops here on Cape Cod, and then art scholarships were awarded to the teachers as well as to the students. And Tyler's going to show you sort of the winners through the years. That's 09. We're going to do this very quickly, like Vanna White on whatever that show was, 08. And just to give you a sense of the geographic stretch on these, we have winners in the last 5 years from Sandwich High School, Chatham High School, Barnstable High School, Sturgis High School. And these students all brought back scholarships for their own arts education and also money for their schools. And we didn't just fund the winning students. We actually last year had 11 student recipients, and each of those 11 recipients and their school art departments received financial awards and
By the
community
way,
recognition.
one of the kids, and I think it was from Falmouth, was a football player.
Yes, he was.
And an athlete, and I thought it was important that arts isn't just for
Arts is for everybody.
That's right.
And,
exactly. And he did, and I really liked what he had done.
We have photos from last year's book, and you'll see that Senator Robert O'Leary came down and spoke to the students, and a couple hundred folks that were present. I'm going to pass this around, and Mark asked me at the end of the day that it get back to me. But it's a book that summarizes the press from that event. It has photographs from it, and you see, as Commissioner Doherty referenced, photos of the students. They come in all sizes and shapes from all backgrounds, and they are participating in, much like the student who scores the goal and gets on the front page, these are students that created art and receive recognition for their creative accomplishments. Another thing that we do under the arts education umbrella is and we're very excited about, is that we launched an interactive arts education database for learners on Barnstable County and for teachers in Barnstable County. We do a lot of listening, and when we listen to citizens, we want to know where there are classes. Are they full-time, are they part-time, are they free, do they cost money, where are they located, is it a one-time class, is it a ongoing class? And at the same time, we hear from providers of instruction, whether they be the larger institutions on the Cape or just individual teachers. How do I connect to students? How do I let people know that I'm available to educate in the arts? And we think it's the first in the country, and we designed this database which allows learners, potential learners, students of all ages and interests, to search and find out what's being offered in the way of classes, and for folks that want to offer classes or instruction to, at no cost, list their class so that we can connect the two sides of the market. We've also completed a needs assessment for arts educators and an inventory of the arts education resources in our region. And it's something that we do on an ongoing basis, because often when our phone rings, the question is, where do I find? And we want to be able to answer that question. So that's sort of a quick walkthrough on our arts education programs. I want to turn next to training and professional development programs. This is an area for which we've actually received National Endowment for the Arts funding in the past because of the success and effectiveness of these programs. We presented last year the second annual Creative Collaborative Conference, and you see that Tyler's placed up an advertisement for the third annual conference, which is coming up on Thursday, March 25th. It will be held at the Cape Cod Resort and Spa in Hyannis. And when we had last year's in March, we drew over 200 artists, which was a standing room only crowd. We had cultural organization representatives. And what they did essentially is they showcased successful collaborative projects in the region, and they shared best practices. We chose to speak about what was working and to share that information broadly. And we had presenters last year that were just terrific. We had a media panel where the publishers and the editors of the region's publications and other providers had a panel discussion so that our audience was able to figure out how to get coverage for what they're doing. We had an arts education advocacy panel where we brought down state recognized director of the Massachusetts Advocates for the Arts, Sciences, and Humanities. We had panel groups with artist affinity groups and executive table directors roundtables. And then we concluded the day with an awards reception, and I'll pass out last year's agenda to you. What was significant about this is that it was the only forum on Cape Cod of its kind. The demand for it was terrific. We doubled the crowd from the prior year. And I wanted to share with you a sense of who else benefited. We invited organizations at no charge to set up booths, tabletop displays, and they came from all over. We had groups from Orleans, Yarmouth, Katuitt, Barnstable, Chatham, Dennis, Truro, Provincetown, Wellfleet, Woods Hole, from end to end. And that's a recurring theme for us. In all of the programs, commissioners, that we present, we are regional. We are always making sure that the citizens of all 15 towns, the organizations, the businesses of all 15 towns are involved and are beneficiaries. The scheduled conference that's coming up in 2010 is extremely content-rich. We are going to be putting on a seminar on artists that themselves are running successful businesses. We're going to reprise our Reaching the Media panel discussion, and once again, the editors and publishers. And this year we included television and radio and magazine leaders as well. And we're also going to have a panel on conversing with elected officials, which you will hear more about, because I think it's so important for your constituents to know how to reach you and appropriately get their questions and interests recognized. So that's a sample of the training and professional development programming that we offer. The third category that I'd like to speak about is our financial assistance and community recognition programs. We funded 2 grant cycles last year. We provided $49,965 to 41 local artists. And I'm going to actually, while I'm talking about that, here's a book that summarizes that conference. I'm going to overwhelm you here with info so that you have a sense of the depth and the breadth of our program of work. So those grants, nearly $50,000 to 41 artists and cultural organizations, those were for essential programs. The demand for that funding far exceeded the supply. We turned down probably 3 or 4 times that which we were able to support. These were all collaborative efforts. We don't want projects that are redundant. We want projects that are sustainable. And they were mostly for educational initiatives for learners of all ages. I have a list here of recipients for you that I will pass around from the last 2 cycles. And once again, you're going to see that they have folks that are receiving grants and organizations that are receiving grants from all 15 towns on Cape Cod. We find that the demand comes from everywhere, and we have an eye towards geographical representation when we fund. So Commissioners Doherty and Flynn, you have each one cycle, and if you switch them, you'll see that together you make up the year's calendar. We also presented last year for community recognition collaborative awards on an annual basis, and I think that's in the book that Commissioner Flynn has right now. We recognize leaders in the community in 4 categories. Collaborative Project of the Year, last year went to the Cape Cod Museum of Arts School to Careers Art Internship Program. That's done in collaboration with the Cape and Islands Workforce Investment Board. And the community leadership went to John Sullivan of Barnstable, well known for the drama department there. Arts Educator of the Year went to teacher Levada Studley of Falmouth. And Lifetime Achievement went to artists Selena Shreve and Robert Henry of Provincetown. And to refresh your memory, the prior year, because I had been asked by the commissioners to report on this, Lifetime Achievement went to artist Harry Hull of Dennis. Arts Educator of the Year went to teacher Carl Lopes of Barnstable. Community Leadership in the Arts went to Martin Tulloch of Falmouth. And Collaborative Project of the Year went to Provincetown Art Association and Museum. This is the only time on Cape Cod where we stop and we celebrate and honor these very, very important stars of the community and the cultural community. So that's another exciting part of our program of work. The next area that I would like to speak about is financial assistance. We just talked financial assistance, is the cultural programs. And this perhaps is what you think of first when you think of the Arts Foundation of Cape Cod. We presented, and again, Tyler's got the sign up there to show you, free, open to the public concerts. The Citizens Bank Summer Concert Series served over 8,000 audience members last year. We employed over 75 Barnstable County performing artists. We presented 56 outdoor concerts. They were presented in the towns of Dennis, Eastham, Falmouth, Harwich, Hyannis, Mashpee, Osterville, and Sandwich during July and August. They were free, they were family friendly, and they did much more than entertain the 8,000 people that came to enjoy a late afternoon, early evening as the sun set. But they also have a very positive ripple effect. They support the retailers, the restaurateurs, and the hoteliers in that area as people come for these concerts and extend their stay, or in fact plan their stay based on this free entertainment. And so I have for you a book that summarizes these concerts. There's photos of all 8 sites, and there's beautiful thank you letters from, all 7 sites. Beautiful letters from these towns that thanked us and told us how invaluable and appreciated these concert series were. So your handouts are schedules and then the program book with the press and with photos from the 7 towns from the 56 concerts. The intercultural program that we present is, I think, our signature program. It's usually the one people think of when they think of the Arts Foundation of Cape Cod. Last year we presented our most successful TD Bank North Pops by the Sea concert. And I'm sure we have thank you Tyler, a sign for that. This is the concert we present the first Sunday in August. Last year was our 24th year. Approximately 15,000 residents and visitors attend. It is the only Cape Cod appearance of the Boston Pops Esplanade Orchestra. It's conducted by Keith Lockhart. It is a gorgeous, beautiful, fabulous day on the Cape. We also make it a day where we remember in a very significant way and involve the Health and Human Service community. And so I wanted to call your attention to a program that we run, and I have actually letters from the 33 individual health and human service organizations that we partner with. And what we do is we provide free general admission lawn tickets last year to 1,200 clients of 33 nonprofit health and human service organizations. And this is so that they're able to attend this fabulous signature cultural event as our guests. And it's a terrific partnership. It's been supported over the years by corporate partners. And it's very, very expensive to bring 1,200 guests to the lawn. Their tickets look the same as yours and mine. And You'll see from the letters from all 33 Health and Human Service partners, and from, in fact, some of the individual families that chose to self-identify and write us, that it is a fabulous experience. This is an event that's put on with the help of over 500 volunteers that assist us just for that day. It's, as I said, very high profile. We get tremendous press and exposure. We also bring in quite a lot of people from off Cape, and we sat down to try to quantify that. And I wanted to just give you as an example that last year we had 1,200 people that arrived in motor coaches. And of course, they don't just go to the Pops, they also go shopping and they eat in the restaurants. They often make a weekend of it. And we can look to the home state of the tour operators, and we see, as we'd expect, that they come from neighboring states such as Connecticut, New York, and Pennsylvania. And so I'm going to pass around the group sales ask, and I also have press clippings from Pops by the Sea, and you'll see that the press is extensive and flattering to the Cape and flattering to our artistic community, and all of it well-deserved. And it's an exciting program. It's a tremendous amount of work, and we are thrilled this year on Sunday, August 1st, Commissioners, to present the 25th annual Pops by the Sea. So that is coming up Sunday, August 1st. And again, it's not something that just benefits the arts, although it is our primary source of support for the Arts Foundation of Cape Cod.
So who's the guest conductor? Can't
That
you
has
say?
not been announced yet, Mr. Zelinsky. But it's also a event that
we get a scoop.
helps cultural venues, restaurateurs, retailers, and hoteliers in the region. They all know the date. It's one of the first things that is placed on their annual calendar. So that gives you a feel for the cultural programming. Collaborative marketing. Let's talk about that next. One of the things, and that's the passport to the arts, one of the things that we are very excited to do, we started it actually not that long ago, 6 or 7 years, is a collaborative marketing effort which introduces new audiences to Cape Cod cultural treasures at a reduced price. And I think reduced price is the operant word. We have a widely distributed, and I'll pass these out, high-quality passport booklet. And this year it benefited 45 Barnstable County cultural organizations. And if you open the passports that I'm passing out, and you see on the first page the venues, you'll see the oldest cultural organizations, you'll see the newest, you'll see the small, you'll see the large, you'll see museums and libraries and the symphony and a wide range of theaters and cultural organizations, all that benefit from the passport. And yet again, I have a book with photos and letters from folks thanking us for this program. And they write us the letters both because we ask them to, so we can show you, but so that we can provide for you and for potential sponsors evidence of the tangible economic impact that these programs offer. Many of these cultural organizations, if not all, and I would say all is probably closer to an accurate statement, struggle to let people know that they're there and to attract and retain new market. And by having a program like the Passport to the Arts, we're able to reach many more people and entice them to come to these treasures. And I've also have a couple more pieces of press on those programs that did not get to the book. Another thing that we did, and we're again very excited about, is we enhanced our flagship website. We call our website the Portable Cape Cod Arts. And I want to give you some numbers, and I'd love you to ooh and ah, if that's within the commissioner job description.
You can do that.
It had over 23,000 unique visits last year. It had more than 156,000 page views. That is up from 21,000 the year before, so it's 7 times an increase over the prior year. And here's the ooh and ah. It included viewers from 102 countries. Do you
Wow.
that, Mark? That'll
Yeah.
do it.
102 countries?
102 countries.
How many countries are there?
102
There must be most of them.
There must be most of them. But what that's telling us, and I have fabulous web statistics to let you know the open rate and how long they spend on the site and how they travel, and while it's interesting to know, the visitors from Canada or the United Kingdom or India or Russia or wherever they're coming from, what's really important to know is that this is a virtual storefront for the cultural offerings on the Cape. And when you want to talk economic development, knowing that you've got 156,000 page views of the arts and cultural offerings in Cape Cod from residents and visitors from 102 countries, that's pretty great. And we also actually get love letters now. I call them love letters. They're
Do they have
really,
checks in them?
they often do have checks,
Yeah,
small
yeah,
checks.
yeah.
But here's one that came in, and these are unsolicited. June 11th, and the writer wrote, I want to drop you a note to tell you your website is helping me with my business. I've had several clients coming into my gallery where I'm featured and asking, and then she goes on to say, I'm so grateful. And this was someone that was in our newsletter. Here's another one that came in March. We've received quite a bit of feedback from people stating they read about our events in your newsletter. We appreciate your support. And here's one telling us about the ease of use of our website. Why don't you share those with the commissioners, because they'll see I didn't write them. And those are pretty fabulous. It's a tremendous volume, and one of the interesting things about it is there's a way to optimize your website volume. There's a way that you can actually buy placement in search engines. We don't do that. This is naturally occurring audience. These are folks that are searching for and returning to the Arts Foundation of Cape Cod's website, which is artsfoundation.org, for relevant and current content on Cape Cod. So I can't think of really a better metric for a successful economic development program. In talking about the website, of course, I alluded to our highly regarded electronic newsletter. It's called Voice of the Arts. I'm grateful that each of you receive it on Thursday. It reaches over 3,600 readers, and it has a tremendously high open rate. That's up actually from 2,500 readers that I reported to you last year. So again, something that's growing. And it stimulates attendance at cultural events. And these metrics evidence a use that significantly exceeds industry norms. So the thank you notes, support it, but so do the audiences that walk in and let folks know how they heard about what is happening. We also expanded our second annual Multi-Town Arts Festival. It was called Fall for the Arts. I have program books for each of you, because you don't get enough paper, and postcards and a rack card just to look at. This program was presented in '08 in just 3 towns.
After a deluge.
During some, we don't use words like deluge, during some precipitation, in Hyannis, Dennis, and Falmouth. It was so appealing and so successful and so needed by these towns that we couldn't decline anyone last year. And we presented the Fall for the Arts, this cultural tourism initiative, in all 15 Cape Cod towns last year. Hundreds of businesses, hundreds of tax-paying, arts-based enterprises, cultural organizations, libraries, everybody came on board. And it supported them, it brought the crowds out. And this is something that will build over years and years of time, of course. But in the short term, we saw that the galleries and the museums and the libraries had more attendance. And of course, that the retailers and restaurateurs really benefited. And this is during the shoulder season, because the Fall for the Arts, the first weekend in October, coincides with the beginning of Arts and Humanities Month, which is a nationally recognized celebration. It's a Herculean effort. Once again, we have thank you notes, and we have photographs. And the piece on the top of this press clipping is actually the lead story in AAA Horizons. And I mentioned before, they enjoy a readership of 1,750,000 people. And so they can only choose one story a month that they highlight. And they highlighted Fall for the Arts on Cape Cod for their 1,750,000 readers in the Mid-Atlantic and New England markets. So that was very exciting for us, and I think for the Cape. We also publish in collaboration with Cape Cod Life and on our website, Everything Arts. This is again under the umbrella of collaborative marketing programming. for the businesses and residents of Barnstable County. Everything Arts is a directory and a list of cultural activities in the spring and fall. I think we're now doing it once a year. It reaches an audience of over 42,000, and it's beautiful. It's on our website, and it's also bound into the annual arts issue that Cape Cod Life Publications puts out. And yet again, what is more compelling than an unsolicited thank you note? These two notes came from glass artists. I think these might be ones that Tyler picked out. This one says, "Thank you for your efforts. It was a great weekend for us. Place looked fabulous." And the other one says, "We're so happy with the 3-day event unfolded. There were many people in attendance. Thank you for the time, planning, and running around you did. We know we're only one of many. You did a great job. Here's some pictures. Do you need any assistance? We're going to put her on the committee." But here we have businesses that are writing us to say, this is working, and it's important to us, and it's affecting our bottom line. So that's sort of a quick summary of the collaborative marketing programs. And again, we're able to do collaborative marketing because we have a regional focus. Community partnership programs. That's kind of an umbrella, commissioners, that we use for the everything else. Our phone rings every day. How can you help? Do I have an idea? Can the Arts Foundation be of assistance? And we say yes as often as we possibly can. We go on the floor, Tyler. One of the programs that we're most proud to help, we created and hosted an interactive interface for the Cape Cod Theater Coalition's calendar on our website. This increases awareness and visibility for 17 theaters from Woods Hole to Provincetown. They have a comprehensive brochure. It builds audiences. I have a lovely thank you note on that from David Willard, and I know I should move it on.
No, this is just for the tape.
Oh, for the taping, okay. So, the Cape Cod Theater Coalition's calendar, they have fabulous programs in our theaters. Cape Cod has theaters that are actually nationally appreciated, but we need people to fill those seats and enjoy those wonderful productions. And so we are able to give them an online presence. We were able to provide the technical support and underwrote having it be clickable, so that when you come to see what they designed as just a print brochure, you can now click through to their websites. You can buy tickets for these productions, and these theaters are somewhere between hungry and desperate for additional support and for exposure for their astonishingly good programming. And what we have is a partial season guide, and we're able to expand their distribution. We also partner with the Cape Cod Museum of Art. They present their award-winning School of Careers to Arts internship program. We were delighted to serve as the keynote speaker recently. They had at the Cape Cod Museum of Art, as part of the Cape Cod Collaborative's All Cape in Service Day last January, a Cape-wide Teachers in Service Day for teachers of art. So 50 to 60 teachers, K through 12, came, and the Arts Foundation of Cape Cod was proud to serve as their keynote speaker and talk about the tried and true methods of making sure that support for the arts continues, what they could do locally, and also issues of relevance in the Commonwealth and nationally, because there's a part for all of us to play in those discussions. We do other things. We do under the Community Partnership umbrella. We provide ongoing marketing and technical assistance to an increasing population of established and emerging Barnstable County cultural-based organizations. What does that mean? It means the phones ring every day and they say, there's a grant, or is there a grant? How do I apply? Would you mind reading it? Could you help? We do what we can there with a very small staff. We present workshops on how to get arts grants, and here's some of the coverage that we received for these free, filled to the room workshops where we help members of the culture community learn how to help themselves. And we're very proud of that. It's often informal advice. Do you need to take a break?
Yeah, we need to take right now a break to change the tape.
Okay, thank you.
You're amazing, Maggie, truly.
For investment in the arts and understanding of the contribution.
Okay, we're back.
We're back? Okay.
I
You're on
almost
again.
forgot when we were talking about the opportunity the Art Foundation had to be a keynote speaker to all those wonderful arts educators on the Cape, that the only downside of the address was that it was right before lunch. And it's a Friday afternoon in January, and we worried that we would lose our audience. And we had that same concern with such a long presentation, so we thought we would address it the same way we addressed it with our educators. We passed out snack. So I'm passing you all crackers and cheese to keep your stamina up during the last few minutes of my remarks. I'll let you know it was the only part of the keynote that received a rousing ovation. So crackers and cheese.
Wow.
See, I'm feeling good now. What else do we do in a collaborative way? I think when we were changing tapes, I was talking about the probably daily phone calls for advice and resources, and we are proud to serve in that capacity, providing information and informal advice to whomever calls. We also work with other organizations quite a bit, so we marketed the second annual Arts and Artisans Trail Guide, which should be in here. Here's one. In collaboration with the Cape Cod Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket Chambers of Commerce and Coastal Community Capital. This stimulates regional tourism along 6 defined arts trails throughout Barnstable County and the islands. We partner with the town of Barnstable on their highly successful Harbor Your Arts initiatives, which we really see as a template that other communities may follow. We partner with the Cape Cod Commission and the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce to present the 16th annual Cape Cod Maritime Days. And the list goes on. When we are given the opportunity to work collaboratively with another organization in support of the cultural economy, if we can do it, we do it. Last area then is planning and advocacy programs. And I referenced this when talking about the keynote that was recently given to the arts educators. This occurs both formally and informally. Advocacy is both a planned and unplanned happening. We hosted, I mentioned, Senate President Therese Murray and other members of the Cape's legislative delegation and the media at our First Things First exhibit space at the Katuitt Center for the Arts. That was the first program I talked about with you today when we talked about arts education. So when Senate President Therese Murray came, and she was kind enough actually to make keynote remarks, she got to meet with 250 constituents that are culturally invested in the economy, the cultural economy. And that's terrific advocacy. When Senator Rob O'Leary came, as he did, to the unveiling of our student art scholarship work, the t-shirt work that Tyler held up for you, and he gave the keynote then, it enhanced his awareness. Senator O'Leary and Senator Murray have both been tireless advocates on the state level for investment in the arts and in arts education, and we're very grateful to them. And we know that having them come to these events and participate and meet the individuals that are making it happen on the Cape, and the students and the artists and the business owners is essential. We also hosted Massachusetts Cultural Council Executive Director Anita Walker and members of her senior staff for the only Cape Cod convening, launching their Cultural Data Project, which is a statewide effort that's going to increase dialogue and statistics and the understanding of Cape businesses. And Anita Walker was good enough to then come down to one of our grant sessions and be there when we bestowed grant awards, and then join us for Pops by the Sea and see and enjoy that terrific weekend. I mentioned before we hosted the Massachusetts Advocates for the Arts, Science, and Humanities Executive Director Dan Hunter. When he has items of special interest, we're the partner that he comes most often on the Cape to work with. And we work in partnership with Paul Nizwicki and the Cape Cod Commission, of course, on regional planning efforts to further boost the vitality and the resources that are needed to sustain the cultural economy. So I'm exhausted. I just read you a list of what we did, and I'm tired. I want to mention one I almost missed, which is the Cape Cod Life Food and Wine Festival. I told you we're not so good at saying no. This is a lovely program that Cape Cod Life sponsored. Last year was their second year, and we brought artists and we hired performing artists to go to Provincetown, Falmouth, Brewster, Katuitt, Chatham, and Sandwich for a weekend that celebrated the restaurants, the food, the wine, and the culture of the Cape. And so I have a list of those as well. And we don't let these things just occur on a weekend and then, expire. We will host that information and contact information for those artists and those businesses thereafter. Okay, so that's what we do. That was the return on your investment. It was noticed at the statewide level. We had the privilege of serving on behalf of the Commonwealth for the Massachusetts Cultural Council. They needed 6 judges for an intensive 2-day review of 143 requests, and we were privileged to serve as one of those 6 judges, and we awarded $280,000 of federal stimulus funds on the state level to help maintain or restore jobs in the nonprofit arts sector. Those grants were made possible by the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, and I thought it was a real tribute to the Cape that we were a voice in that discussion. So we're doing these things. We're professionally presenting the above program of work, and we're doing it because the funds that are received from Barnstable County are leveraged. This is the part I want you to focus on. We leverage your funding. The funds that we receive from Barnstable County account for less than 2.5% of our total budget. So we are proudly Barnstable County's regional arts agency. We scream it from the rafters, we put it in all of our programs, we put it in our website. We start all of our public speeches by letting folks know how proud we are that we are the Barnstable County's designated arts agency. You support less than 2.5% of our budget. We match every dollar that you provide to us 40 to 1. Pretty good return on investment. We are grateful. We couldn't do it without you. But some things we were unable to. Last year, we had a 30% decline in support. This was common, both locally, regionally, and nationally, because of the difficulties in the economy. There was a migration away from arts and culture towards other issues. So what didn't happen? Well, we talked about that wonderful arts education program. Last year it was 5 weeks long, as it was the prior years. This year it was only 4 weeks. So we took a program that's sold out, that has hundreds of visitors a day, that serves thousands of students, and we had to reduce it from 5 to 4 weeks. We turned away school groups. Take something like our online arts education directory that's connecting educators with students. We're unable to promote it as broadly as we like, and on a very tangible level, because of our staff cuts, we now only have 2 full-time and 2 part-time employees doing everything I just described for 40 minutes. We're unable to help people with their data entry to list these classes. So here they are without enough time to do anything, and we're asking them to manually enter the data so that people can access this wonderful tool to find out who they are. We talked about training and professional development programs, and I mentioned that we had been awarded a National Endowment for the Arts grant for these programs. The grant had been for evening workshops that we presented over a 2-month period that focused on using social media. We had presented intensive workshops, entrepreneurial business training for emerging artists that had yielded tangible, positive results. These were unique programs. They weren't offered to artists in any other circumstance, and they had to be eliminated because we did not have the funding or the staff to support them. I mentioned that we provided direct grants, and while we are thrilled that we were able to provide nearly $50,000 in support last year, it was down from $71,000 the year before. And as you start marching through, almost $50,000 last year, Commissioner Doherty, we provided $49,965.
And it's down from 71.
And it was down from $71,450. And so the grants were smaller, and everybody took in their belts. I talked about cultural programming, and with great joy we spoke about the fabulous summer concert series where we hire local Cape Cod performers for these wonderful free concerts. Well, we were down from 64 concerts in 8 towns in 2008 to 56 concerts in 7 towns in 2007. So we were invited into more towns, and we went to 1 fewer. Less entertainment, less supportive retailers, restaurateurs, hoteliers, a contraction. And we asked every single artist that performed for us in 2009 to take a pay cut. So we are paying our performers less than we should be paying them. We try very hard to always pay artists a market rate, and here we are paying these performers less than they should be receiving. And then I spoke, of course, with great pride in the Health and Human Service Partnership, and that was also reduced. While we were thrilled last year to distribute 1,200 tickets, the prior year we had distributed 1,300 tickets. We still served 33 local health and human service agencies, but their demand was way up and our supply was down. I talked about the successful passport program, and we were unable to make any media buys to generate regional and longer distance exposure. This is a home run of a program. It grows every year, but all of the coverage is editorial. None of it is purchased. That's a remarkable thing. While I've been passing books by you all morning about the great coverage we're getting nationally and super regionally and locally, none of it has been purchased. We don't buy a single ad. And there are cases where it would make great sense to promote the Cape in that way. So while we're excited with Fall for the Arts is only now going to enter its third year. It's going to serve all 15 towns on the shoulder season. We are unable to make any media buys to generate regional and longer distance travel. And we are, again, when there are artists performing, as there are during that event, if we pay them, it's below market to our own performing artists. We talked about community partnership programs, and again, what did the budget cuts mean? They're very tangible. We have that fabulous Theater Coalition guide. We're able to support them in a meaningful way on the website, but we're not able to promote them in other ways or to have a full season guide. We're only able to support the existing seasonal guide. Well, these theaters in many cases are open all year long, and that should not be a well-kept secret for the few. And that list goes on. You're going to see that everybody was paid a little less. At the Arts Foundation right now, we have only 2 full-time and 2 part-time employees. That is not sustainable. When the market declined in October of '08, we knew philanthropy would migrate away from the arts. It does everywhere when there are declines. So we immediately cut our budget by 30%, and we made...
Did you say 2 or 3 part-time employees?
We have 2 full-time and 2 part-time employees.
2 and 2.
Because we cut our budget.
Yes.
We cut our budget before, very early, immediately, the minute the bad news came out.
And
we
of course,
knew,
you've cut this fabulous salary you pay yourself too, right?
coming to that, I'm a volunteer, Commissioner Doherty, and we made the choice between programs and people, and we knew that we wanted to support these programs. We know they're necessary. And so, since '05, if we use that as a data point, the amount of work that we produce, the amount of programming we produce, has quadrupled or more. It now serves literally tens of thousands of residents and visitors of Barnstable County, proudly. However, our line allocation has been actually slashed from $30,000 in '05 to $20,000 in the most recent year. At the same time that philanthropy has been reduced, we find a great many organizations in difficult times choose to support important needs other than arts and culture. And so what we've done at the county's designated arts agency, with just 2 full-time and 2 part-time employees, is we haven't been able to afford to fill 2 of our full-time positions. One you refer to is our executive director position. That remains unfilled. It's being done on a volunteer basis. And the other is a full-time position that's being done on a part-time basis. Well, how do we get all this wonderfulness done with such a small staff? First of all, we exhaust them, and they're outstanding, and so that they are just fabulous. But the other is we rely on hundreds, over 500 seasonal volunteers, and a remarkable board of over 24 volunteer community leaders, of which I'm very proud to note that Commissioner Flynn is the newest member. And we look to these community leaders, these volunteers, and everyone else that assists us to breach this gap. But a reliance on volunteers, particularly in the position of executive director, is neither a sustainable pace nor a sound long-term business model. We are pleased that we spend virtually all of our time delivering programs with enthusiasm, but we don't have the dedicated resources that are needed for our own development efforts on a long-term basis, and those are essential for sustainable presentation of essential services for Barnstable County residents and visitors. What we're doing is we're choking off growth at the exact time that your investment in your own designated arts agency is most needed for the good and welfare of the county. So here's the ask accordingly. The Arts Foundation of Cape Cod is respectfully requesting that the 2010-2011 line item be $45,000 of support to sustain the regional programs we've discussed today, to restore the reduced and eliminated programs so that we can continue to present with pride and enthusiasm a regional, essential, core cultural programming services for the residents and visitors here, and continue to report on them with a measurable and sustainable positive economic impact. It is our pleasure, it is our privilege, and we want to keep doing it well for the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie and Tyler.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Yes. I think when I first heard this presentation last year, I didn't fully and totally appreciate the way the Arts Foundation is just part of the arts on Cape Cod. I mean, it is really the arts on Cape Cod. And then having been a board member, I understand even more. But I'm glad you took this time today. It was very valuable to give this complete overview in more detail about the work that the foundation really does, because it pulls together, I think, everything art about Cape Cod, arts and culture. At least that's how I look at it. So I don't consider your request unreasonable. And I think obviously we're not taking any votes on it today, but we are incorporating everyone's request into the big picture. And then, well, I said at some point, probably before mid-March.
We got an extension,
We had an
from
extension.
the Assembly on the budget. We need to submit our proposed budget to them by the third Wednesday in March. And of course then they do their work, so, but that's our time frame.
And I hope that the people who are at home, who will hear this presentation, appreciate it as much as we do. Because I know it took a lot of time to put it together, but it was very well worth your time to do that, and our time to hear it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Well, I want to say that my expectation of and delight of anticipating your presentation was matched by the excellence of it. I want to tell you that I get enormous credibility when I go to the National Association of County meetings where I serve as I guess I'm vice chair this year of Arts and Culture Committee, because you do all these things. And of course I take credit for all of it. And if it wasn't for you, and the Cape is so lucky to have you.
I think you can take credit for less than 2.5%, right? Is that what, if I heard the
We are
number
the
right?
Yeah.
county's designated arts agency, and we're proud to have Commissioner Doherty present us that way.
Well, in any case, the credibility that we get for really having a designated arts agency that truly supports the art and recognizes the contribution that the arts make to economic development, to cultural tourism, and to enhance the quality of life that we have here in Barnstable County is truly remarkable. And believe me, if it wasn't for your particular and persistent dedication and investment of time and energy in this, I don't think we'd see any of this.
Well, it's the artists and the galleries and the museums and it's so much. And I had not seen this before. And I think this is wonderful because when people come to the Cape and they say, I want to go to some galleries or some museums, they can take this and they can
And
actually
they can grab a passport.
they can grab
the
they
Fulton
can
Arts program.
anything. And but this actually can give you, can map out for you how you really want to approach your foray into art on Cape Cod is to go by the trails.
Commissioners, we want to change the
Have you
headlines.
seen this?
The Cape Cod Times headline
Fabulous.
on January 21st was on arts groups struggling, and ArtNet News had an article about how when we lost the Heritage Museum and Gardens Spectacle of Lights, we lost 16,000 visitors, and we keep a whole file of sort of sad news. It has an unhappy face on it. We want to replace that with good news for the arts and for the Cape. I'm going to leave you and ask Mr. Zelensky if these eventually get back to us with some thank you notes from children, because I always think that those are the more important than all those numbers and all that conversation. These say more than we can. letting you know how much your investment means to them. Thank you. Are there any questions?
I do have a
Yes,
question,
Mark.
if you don't mind. Are you planning on doing the Food and Wine Festival again this year?
We are in discussions with Cape Cod Life Publications, and like all of the programs on our program of work, our board is looking at less resources and greater demand, and where we can have the biggest impact. But we are hopeful. It's a nice regional program. It's beautifully presented.
And where can people find out, kind of going forward for 2010, what programs you offer?
Artsfoundation.org. We are thrilled to have that website. If you think of all the arts foundations
Right.
nationally, the Cape has the optimal website address, www.artsfoundation.org, and it will bring you to Barnstable County's own designated local arts agency, the Arts Foundation of Cape Cod. Thank you for asking.
And two things, finally. You know, the golden age in every historical era was always represented by both support and presentation of the arts. And perhaps one of the things to balance off against the economic downturn that we have is that unless we have a vibrant and active arts community, we'll never get back to that golden age. And I wanted to personally thank you for letting me volunteer, for the various events. It's been wonderful. I've relished earning those lawn tickets.
Well, you have every one of those T-shirts that I held up because you are one of our long-term and much appreciated volunteers.
Actually, I think one year I did security. I had the orange T-shirt, which whenever I go to the beach to run somebody off my beach, I wear that security T-shirt. It was really remarkable. When I saw all of that talent that came in when you gave me the privilege of being a judge. That was the second time that I did that, and both times, all of this talent coming from the children on Cape Cod. I subbed in on the 19th of January over at Harwich High School in the arts for the seniors, and had an opportunity to see that interest is alive and well among the kids that I saw. And the last period, and you did mention the theater arts. The last period was they were doing improv, and I mean, there's so much talent here, and the fact that you're encouraging it, I think is absolutely wonderful. Kids need an opportunity to express themselves in a way that that gets all of that emotion and all of that in a very positive way. And I don't know of any other way other than the arts to do it.
Everyone in the arts community will tell you that arts are an essential part of any student's education.
I'm into that.
Right.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I love the way this youngster, I'm sure, had help, but nevertheless spelled transcendence correctly. That was pretty good.
And I think people should know that your lovely daughter Sarah plays a heavenly harp.
I was going to say, I
Thank you.
saw the name Sarah Vance Guiber. That's your daughter?
Yeah.
That was my eldest before.
Terrific.
I want you to know, I did attend a concert at Highfield last week, I forget when, Sunday. It was last Sunday, actually. It was Robert Wyatt and a guest pianist playing Chopin and Liszt. And in Highfield Hall does hold a number of people, but if you waited too long, 4 days before the concert was completely sold out. So there are events that are really and still engaging people. But this time of the year, too, I think it's winter and you
There
have
are
more time to get out.
wonderful things happening all 52
Everywhere.
weeks of the year in all 15 towns.
Right, exactly.
And that's the message we want to continue to be able to effectively deliver.
Right.
Thank you, Commissioners. for this
But
opportunity.
thank you so much for your presentation.